ॐ वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। साक्षात्कृतं दयानन्दं परमार्थस्वरूपिणं तत्त्वज्ञानप्रशास्तारं प्रणतोऽस्मि परं पदम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। These are the shlokas and the mantras we will chant every class. And for Gita, there are specific dhyana shlokas that we will see from the next class. I will teach you that shlokas also, the shloka and the meaning. And every class we can take only one or two dhyana shloka because there are 9 dhyana shlokas. So we can take one, we can chant one or two dhyana shlokas every class. Otherwise, the whole class will go for chanting all the shlokas only, dhyana shlokas only. So we will see dhyana shlokas of the Gita later. These are the shlokas and the mantra we chant every class. And the meaning of these shlokas and the mantra we have seen in the other classes. In detail we have seen. So I am not explaining the meaning of these shlokas and the Shanti mantra Sahana Bhavatu. So we will get into the topic. The topic is Gita, Bhagavad Gita. Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And for the Gita, these are the Dhyana shlokas. This I will teach you the next class, starting from the next class onwards. There are many Dhyana shlokas. These shlokas are chanted before the study of Gita. We will talk about more on this Dhyana shlokas in the next class. This we can chant. Narayanam namaskritya. All of you can chant.
Narayanam namaskritya
Naran Shaiva Narottamam
Naran Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswati Vyasam
ततो जयमुदीरयेत्.
ततो
जयम् उदीरये
जयमुदीरयेत्.
Okay. This is a shloka, and in this shloka, namaskara is offered to Narayana and also to Saraswati and Vyasa. And you can see the word Jayam. Jayam means Mahabharata. Jayam is another word for Mahabharata. So now offering namaskara to Saraswati, Vyasa, and Narayana. We will talk about more on this shloka, the meaning, but we will see later. So now, Bhagavad Gita. The class Bhagavad Gita, first class, starts today. What is the reason for starting another class Bhagavad Gita? Already there is one class going on. Another Bhagavad Gita is being conducted. You all know, many of you attend. What is the need for one more Gita class? That Bhagavad Gita class is studied along with the Bhashyam. That Gita is very elaborately, in a very detailed manner, it is studied with the Bhashyam. Bhashyam means commentary. Commentary written by Shankara Bhagavad Pada. It's a very detailed commentary, therefore, detailed explanation or study of the text Gita. We are in the second chapter only. Second chapter, that too, we are only in the 35th shloka, somewhere. 35th or 36th shloka. So far, 100 classes have gone, but we are in the second chapter only. A long way to go. So it means it will take maybe 1,000 classes to complete the Gita. The whole Gita, the study of Gita with the Bhashyam. 1,000 classes, you can imagine. In a year, we have maximum 52 classes. In a year, 52, 53 weeks are there. So 52 classes, even if you make it 50 classes a year, 1,000 classes, when we will complete, we don't know. It will go on and on. It will take many years to complete the Gita. So therefore, to have the knowledge of the Gita in a short time, the short time also, it is 2-3 years. That's a short time. To have the knowledge of the Gita, to study the Gita without the commentary, and have the general knowledge or the understanding of the Gita in keeping with the Shankara Bhashya. In keeping with the Shankara Bhashya, we are not going to study Shankara Bhashya, but in keeping with the Shankara Bhashya, based on Shankara Bhashya, understanding Bhagavad Gita, we can hope to complete. Maybe in 200 or 250 classes. So it means that itself will take 4 or 5 years to complete the study of the Gita. The reason for starting this class is to understand the Gita, the simple meaning of the Gita, and the Tatparyam of the Gita based on the commentary of Shankara Bhashya. That is the intention of starting this new Bhagavad Gita class, so that we would be able to complete within 200 or 250 classes, whereas the study of Gita with Bhashyam takes 1,000 classes. So that is one reason. Another reason is the study of Gita with Bhashyam requires a reasonable Samskrita background. Sanskrit, because commentary is there. So commentary involves the explanation of the words of the shloka as well as the words which are used by the Bhashyakara in the Bhashyam. Bhashyakara means Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya in his Bhashyam. Therefore, it is a very elaborate, detailed study and involves the Sanskritam. Therefore, you need to have a good knowledge of Sanskritam. That is one. Whereas for the study and understanding of the simple meaning of the Gita, you don't need a very great background of Sanskritam. Not required. Minimum knowledge of Sanskritam is sufficient. I also will try to use Sanskritam as minimum as possible. We have to use, there is no choice. We have to use. If I use Sanskritam or quote any shlokas, I'll give the translation of those shlokas or the words. We are not going to see just mere translation of the shloka. We are not going to just see the mere translation. We are going to study the shloka and the meaning of the shloka in keeping with the commentary of Shankara Bhagavad Pada. And no Bhashyam. Therefore, it takes less time. Therefore, you don't require much Sanskritam knowledge. You need, but not much. That is why another class Gita. And the name is Gita. When we say Gita, we all know it means Bhagavad Gita. Gita, otherwise called Gitopanishad. Gita is also called a Upanishad. Gita is also called Upanishad. Gitopanishad. Where are these Upanishads? These Upanishads are located at the end of the Veda. Upanishads, otherwise called Vedanta, Vedanam Antaha, the last part of the Veda, which are called Vedanta. Another name of Vedanta is Upanishad. These Upanishads, which are located at the end of the Vedas, which are studied by the seekers of knowledge. These Upanishads are studied by the seekers of the knowledge. What knowledge? The knowledge of the reality. The knowledge of the reality, the ultimate reality. This Vedanta, this Upanishads, this Vedanta is a positional name. It is a positional name. It has no other meaning. You need to note this. Vedanta, Vedanam Antaha. It is a positional name located at the end of the Veda. That is why it's called Vedanta. The Tatparya of Vedanta, otherwise called Upanishads, and the Tatparya of Gita. Tatparya means the intended teaching, the meaning. Tatparya, the essential meaning, the essential teaching of the Vedanta and the essential teaching of the Gita, both being the same. Therefore, Gita is called Gitopanishad. The essential teaching of the Upanishads as well as the Gita being the same, Gita is also called Gitopanishad. So Gita or Gitopanishad both mean the same. And by the word Gita, we always understand it is Bhagavad Gita. Why? Because Bhagavad Gita is so famous. So when we say Gita, we understand it is Bhagavad Gita. In spite of there are being many Gitas, in spite of there being many Gitas, there are so many Gitas available. Many Gitas, Guru Gita, Ashtavakra Gita, Avaduta Gita, Amsa Gita, Rama Gita, Bhikshu Gita, Ribhu Gita, so many Gitas are available. Even in Mahabharatam itself, there are many Gitas. And outside Mahabharatam also there are Gitas. Like we have Uddhava Gita, which is in Bhagavatam. There also Bhagavan Krishna is a teacher. The teacher. So therefore, in spite of there being many Gitas, by the word Gita we understand it is Bhagavad Gita because it is so important, and the Tatparya of Gita is same as that of the Tatparya of the Upanishads. Therefore, Gita has a value, and we all understand by the word Gita is Bhagavad Gita. It is Gita. In fact, it should be Gitam. Gitam means song. Sangeetam. Gitam. But here, it is not song. Here it is not song, it is the Upadesha. It is Upadesha. Gita means not a song. Bhagavan Krishna is not singing a song, and that too in the middle of the battlefield. He is giving Upadesha. He is giving the teaching. Gitam should be the word. It should be Bhagavad Gitam, the teaching of Bhagavan. Bhagavat is Bhagavan. We will talk about Bhagavan later. Why Gitam has become Gita? Because the Tatparyam, as I said, the Tatparyam of the Upanishads, which are in the Veda, the Tatparyam of the Upanishads, which are at the end portion of the Veda, is the same. The Tatparyam is same for Gita also, and the Vedas, which are otherwise called Shruti, the Vedas, which are otherwise called Shruti. Shruti is a feminine gender word. Shruti meaning Vedas is a feminine gender word. That is why they name the child Shruti. Shruti is a female child. Shruti. It's a feminine gender word. Since Shruti is a feminine gender word, therefore Gitam also has become Gita. Gita is feminine gender word. The reason for making it a Gita is to match the gender. Shruti meaning the Vedas. Gita is also a Veda. The teaching of Gita is not different from the teaching of Vedas. Therefore, Gitam has become Gita. And this Gita, given by whom? Given by Bhagavan. Who is that Bhagavan? Bhagavan Krishna. Bhagavan Krishna, he gives the teaching of the Vedas to Arjuna. To Arjuna is disciple. Arjuna was a friend. Now he became his disciple. And Krishna gives the teaching to Arjuna. The content of the Vedas are condensed in the form of teaching and given by Bhagavan Krishna to Arjuna in the middle of the battlefield. Therefore, it has significance. So it is clear now, the teaching of the Gita is same as the teaching of the Vedas. But Vedas are very voluminous. 4 Vedas are there: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda. And whatever texts are available, all these texts are based on the teaching of the Vedas. Whatever text you name, the teaching will be based, the text will be based on the teaching of the Vedas. Vedas are the Moola Shastram, Moola Pramanam. Vedas are the Moola Shastram. the primary source. Based on that only, all other granthas have been written. And Vedas are voluminous. And there are many texts available written based on the teaching of the Vedas. Now, to understand the teaching of the Veda, which text you will study? There are so many texts available. Ananta Shastram Bhagaveditavyam. So many Shastras are there. Many things are to be known. But we don't have time. Alpascha Kalaha. Time is limited. And within the limited time, there are many obstacles also. Bhagavascha Vignaha. Many Vignas, many obstacles are there. Therefore, within the available time, and that too, the time which is free from obstacles, we need to know the teaching of the Veda. So therefore, Gita is prescribed, Gita is studied. So Gita represents the teaching of the Vedas and the Vedanta, Upanishads. So study of Gita is equivalent to the study of the Vedas. That is why Gita is called Gita Shastram. It is a Shastram. What is a Shastram? Shasti. Shasti trayate iti Shastram. Shasanat trayate iti Shastram. Shastram is that which teaches, which protects. That is called Shastra. Protection by teaching. Protection by teaching. That is Shastra. Any protection. Why do you need protection? Because there is a fear. Therefore we need protection. Is the fear it's real? That fear also is not real. The fear is a notional fear. Since it is a notional fear, now for this notional fear to go, what do we require? We need teaching. We need knowledge. This notional fear can go only by knowledge. Knowledge can only remove. Therefore, teaching is involved. That is what a Shastram does. Shastram teaches. By teaching, it removes the fear of samsara. The fear is the fear of samsara. So therefore, teaching is protection. By teaching, Shastra protects. That is why it is Shastram. And Gita also does the same. Therefore, it is Gita Shastram. So Gita Shastram or Gita or Gita Upanishad, it all means the same. And since there are so many texts available and the Vedas are voluminous, and since we don't have time and there are obstacles also, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes,
Guruji.
Guruji.
Okay, when it was net disconnection, came back again. Okay, therefore we study Gita. And we have a huge literature. We have a lot of literature in the form of Sutra Grantha, Smriti Grantha, Itihasa, Purana. 18 Puranas are there, and we have 18 Upapuranas. All these are huge. Each contain thousands of verses. And Mahabharata and Ramayana, this Itihasa Grantha, Mahabharatam is a voluminous one. Then it's got about 1 lakh shloka. And Ramayanam, 24,000 shlokas are there. So, a lot of things are there to study. But since the time is limited, therefore study of Gita will give the result of studying of all the Shastras. Therefore, Gita is the Sarabhuta, is the Saram of all the Shastras. Therefore, study of Gita. Yat sarabhotam tad upasitavyam. Hamso yata kshiram iva ambu mishra. So we need to have this viveka. Even in study, we need to have viveka. So many things are there to study. Which one to select and study? Taking into consideration the time availability and other factors. That which is the essence of all the granthas, that has to be studied. What is that? Gita. Here we need to do the viveka. Like the Amsa Pakshi, the swan, which takes only the milk, leaving out the water. Similarly, we have to be very careful in selecting the text and study. And the text also should be the sarabhuta, the essence of all the scriptures. So therefore, since Gita is the Sarva Shastra Sarabhutam, since it is the essence of all the Shastras, therefore Gita is studied. So Gita itself is sufficient for Atma Jnanam. We don't need any other grantha. And study of Gita is equivalent to the study and gaining of the knowledge of the Vedas and Vedanta. So therefore, Gita study is important. And this Gita, which is in the form of a dialogue between Bhagavan Krishna and Arjuna. In fact, any teaching, the teaching of the Upanishad, you will find in the form of a dialogue between the teacher and the disciple. The teacher is the giver of the teaching, and the disciple who is the listener. Since knowledge is involved, therefore there is a teaching, and this the giver must be there. Since knowledge is involved, the giver must be there, and the giver is the guru, and the listener is the shishya, and the teaching is the shastram, the Gita. So three things are there: the teacher, the taught, and the teaching. So in Gita, the teacher is Krishna, the taught is Gita, and the student is Arjuna. By giving the teaching, Arjuna protects the disciple. Krishna protects the disciple, Arjuna. Therefore, it is a shastram. Protection from fear. Protection from fear, and therefore it gives him freedom. It gives freedom. The teaching gives freedom. Freedom from all the notional fears, notional problems. Freedom from all the notional problems. Because these notional problems are the cause for samsara. These notional problems are the cause of pain, dukkha. This notional problem. If the problem is real, then it has to be solved. But if the problem is notional, it can be solved only by teaching. That is what Bhagavan Krishna does. So therefore, it is a moksha shastram. It is a moksha shastram. Gita is a moksha shastram. It is not a text for Gita for management, Gita for environmental studies, Gita for this social harmony. Gita, these are all the modern terms they use, Gita for management, philosophy and all. Gita, in fact, it is self-management, managing yourself. Therefore, Gita is a moksha shastra. The teaching of Gita makes you understand yourself and makes you free. It is a moksha shastra. Because the teaching of Gita is the same as the teaching of the Upanishad. Upanishads is for giving moksha. Therefore, Gita also is a moksha shastra. It doesn't have any other purpose. Gita is not a story book. It is not a book which can be read leisurely. It is a systematic study. Gita is a systematic study. And the purpose of studying of Gita is to gain moksha, to gain freedom. There is no other intention. There is no other purpose of the Gita. Even though the modern people, they use Gita for all other purposes, they may be the secondary purposes, but the main purpose is for moksha. Therefore, it is a moksha shastra. That is why it is called Gita Upanishad. It has the status of being a Upanishad. In the Sampradaya, there are three important texts which are studied. Three important texts which are studied. What are those three? One is Upanishad, other one is Bhagavad Gita, and third one is Brahma Sutra. Studying of Brahma Sutra and Upanishads is difficult. You need to have a good knowledge of the Sanskritam, and also Upanishads needs to be studied under the guidance of a teacher. And Gita also, any text, it requires a teacher and cannot take up on one's own and study. But Upanishads are difficult to study, to start with. In the beginning, you cannot start Upanishad. You need to have some base grantha, basic text. Then you can study Upanishad. So Upanishads are not studied first. Brahma Sutra are not studied. Brahma Sutra is not studied first. In fact, after studying the Upanishads, the main 10 Upanishads, generally you study Brahma Sutra. And Upanishads are studied after studying Gita. So Gita is studied first. So these three, Upanishads, Gita, and Brahma Sutra, these three are the primary source of the teaching. So they are called Prasthanam. They are called Prasthanam, otherwise called Prasthana Trayam. Trayam means three. So Prasthana Trayam. These three have a special place in the tradition. So these three texts, Upanishads, that is Vedanta, and Gita, and Brahma Sutra. So these three texts are called Prasthana Trayam. So Upanishad, this Gita also has a significant place in the Prasthana Trayam. Significant place. Because it has that status of being a Shastram. Therefore, it is included in the Prasthana Trayam. And this has become popular. The Gita has become popular only after Shankara Bhagavad Pada wrote commentary on it. Many people have written commentary on the Gita. The same Gita, for which many commentaries are available, and the Tatparya and the establishing the teaching, establishing the intention or the Tatparya of the Gita also differs from commentary to commentary. Also differs from commentary to commentary. Shankara Bhagavad Pada, through his commentary, he establishes Advaitam. Whereas the same Gita is taken for commentary, and some commentators, they establish Visishtadvaitam and Dvaitam. So the same Gita, like Brahma Sutra, yields itself to different commentaries and different interpretations. And there are so many books are available on Gita, the modern commentators, the English translations. Now, we said so many Shastrams are there. Among those, since we don't have much time to study, therefore we have come to Gita. And Gita itself, for Gita itself, there are so many commentaries and so many interpretations, and modern commentators also have added to it. So how to study the Gita? Without the Sampradaya, without the support of the Sampradaya, the study of Gita is not possible. The Sampradaya gives you the approach, gives you the method to approach the study of Gita. It is only Sampradaya can give. Only Sampradaya can give. Therefore, a teacher is required. Therefore, the teacher is required to teach what Krishna had taught to Arjuna. The same teaching will be given by the teacher of the Gita. Without teacher, you cannot take up the study of Gita also. If you study Gita on your own and without Sanskritam knowledge, suppose if you study, there are translations available. So you will be carried over by the translation. The translation also depends on what the translator's idea about the Gita. And whether the translator is in keeping with the Sampradaya or also we don't know. Even if it is keeping with the Sampradaya, we have to understand the words. The words have to be handled. That only the tradition can do. That only the teachers in the tradition can do. Therefore, it is to be studied under a teacher. This is the knowledge which the Gita unfolds. The knowledge which the Gita unfolds, the knowledge unfolded by the Rishi through the Vedas. Therefore, Sampradaya is important. This is a Arsha Vidya. This Vidya is Arsha Vidya, the Veda Vidya. Like Vedas, this Gita also is a Pramanam. Gita has a status of being a Pramanam. Pramanam means the means of knowledge. Pramanam means the means of knowledge. About Pramanam, we have talked a lot in the other classes, in the Gita class, in the Gita Bhashyam class, as well as in Kathopanishad and other class. In Tattvavada class, we have studied in great detail what Pramanam is, introduction to Pramanam. You please listen to that, then you will understand what Pramanam is. I'm not going to cover what Pramanam is because itself is a huge topic. So Pramanam, I take for granted that we know that Vedas are the Pramanam, and Gita being a Veda, being a Upanishad, therefore Gita is also a Pramanam. And this Pramanam, since it is a Pramanam, therefore it has to be handled by the teacher. Therefore it has to be handled by the teacher. Now, the Upanishads are the Pramanam, which are Apaurisheya Pramanam, and Gita, it is also a Pramanam. It is also a Pramanam, but it was written by Vyasacharya. Written by Vyasacharya. Therefore, it is Paurishayam. The Shastram is Paurishayam. Gita written by Vyasacharya, by a person. Vedas were not written by anyone. Vedas were not written by rishis. They were received by rishis. That's why it's called Apaurishayam. No human intervention is involved. Intellect is involved. That's why it is Apaurishayam. Whereas Gita is Paurishayam, written by Vyasacharya. But the knowledge is not Paurishayam. The knowledge what the Gita gives is not Paurishayam, it is Apaurishayam only. Gita, what Gita does is it restates what taught by Upanishads. At the same time, it has the status of being a Pramanam. So, therefore, Gita being a Smriti Grantha, Smritis, what does Smriti mean? That which are remembered is called Smriti. What taught by Shruti are remembered by Smritis. Shrutis are that which are heard by the rishis. Smritis are that which are remembered. What taught by rishis are remembered. Here, Vyasacharya, he recollects, he remembers what the rishis have taught. Therefore, it is Smriti Grantha and it is Paurishaya. Smriti Paurishaya. Smriti means Paurishaya. Paurishaya Grantha. At the same time, it has a status of being a Pramanam, the means of knowledge to unfold the truth which are given by the Veda. The truth unfolded, the truth same as that of the Veda unfolds. So therefore, This comes under the category of Smriti, Smriti Prasthanam. The Prasthanam, I told three, Prasthanatrayam, Gita, Upanishad, Dharma Sutra. Upanishads are Shruti Prasthanam and Brahma Sutra is Nyaya Prasthanam, logic, based on logic. Logical analysis are involved in Nyaya Prasthanam. And Gita is Smriti Prasthanam. Smriti, remembrance, remembered. What taught by the Upanishads are remembered by Vyasacharya and presented in the form of Gita as a dialogue between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. Therefore, it has the status of being a Shastram, being a Pramanam, iti. So this is the Gita. And this Gita, we know that it is a part of the Mahabharata. Mahabharatam written by Vyasacharya. As I told, it has got 1 lakh shlokas. It's a very huge itihasa. And this Gita is located in the Bhishma Parva. There are many parvas. Parva means sections. There are 18 sections. There are 18 sections in the Gita. And Gita, Bhagavad Gita is located in Bhishma Parva. In the Bhishma Parva, starting from the 25th chapter and ending up to 42nd chapter. It means 18 chapters. These 18 chapters, 25th to 42nd chapter of Bhishma Parva is Gita. Mahabharatam has 18 sections and Gita has got 18 chapters. The number 18 has got some significance. The Mahabharatam is also called Jaya Shastram, I said. Jaya Shastram. Mahabharatam is also a Shastram. That also teaches. What is not there in Mahabharatam, you will not find it anywhere. Mahabharatam contains everything. It is called Jaya Shastram. The word Jaya also, by a particular a numbering system, the word Jaya also stands for 18. So therefore, the word 18 has got some significance. Even the armies of the Pandava and the Kauravas, if you count, there are 18 Ukshohinis. And the war took place for 18 days. And there are 18 chapters in Gita. So all the way it is 18. And this Gita is what we are going to study. And for this Gita, generally, we study, before we study this Gita, before we study any text, we offer prayers. We offer prayers. Like in Tattva Bodha, we offered prayers. Vasudevendra Yogindram. Any text you take, we offer prayers. In Upanishads, the prayers are in the form of Shanti Pata. So for Gita also, we have prayers. Those prayers are called Dhyana Shloka. Gita doesn't have Dhyana Shloka. Some people, they think that Dhyana Shloka, what we chant, it belongs to Gita. Gita doesn't have Dhyana Shloka. The Dhyana Shlokas, which I will be teaching in the next class, there are 9 Dhyana Shlokas, which were written by Madhusudana Saraswati. As part of the commentary on Gita by him. And his commentary is called Gudartha Deepika. It's a beautiful commentary on Gita. Like Shankara Bhagavad Pada had written commentary, similarly, another great Swami, Madhusudana Saraswati, he had written a beautiful commentary on Gita, which is called Gudartha Deepika. For that commentary, he had written this Mangala Shloka, Dhyana Shloka. This is the shloka generally we consider as the Dhyana Shloka for Gita. These are very beautiful Dhyana Shlokas. So our study of Gita will start with the study of this Dhyana Shlokas. Unlike I explained this Dhyana Shlokas in detail in the other class. So this meaning of Gita, simple meaning of the Dhyana shlokas will be taught. So we will continue our class, next class, with the study of Dhyana shloka. After that, the first chapter starts. So we stop here. So we will continue in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om.
Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Harihi Om. Today's class, there were many obstacles. One is internet not there. I'm using data back. Meanwhile, a lot of phone calls have also come. Somehow, why? Since it's a beginning, so without any obstruction, we should do. So I did. So we need to pray to Ganapati for obstacle-free class.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, Guruji.
Dhanyavad.
Yes, Guruji.
धन्यवाद गुरुजी.